Hello everybody, I'm making this video because I've always been a great fan of Doreen Virtue. Years ago my friend Tracy bought my first set of angel cards, and they helped me to understand things about life and what was going on in my life. And I know the angels and gods, goddesses, Jesus, all different beings helped me get that courage. Also, it came from inside me also, to change a big situation in my life. Now, I have probably for a few years now listened to Doreen Virtue's weekly readings on YouTube, and I always enjoy them. And recently they got longer, and she said that she was going to be teaching people about Jesus, and I knew straight away that that was going to cause a backlash, because it always has in history, hasn't it? But she gives people the choice to whether to watch it or not. She still does the card reading, and then she stops it, says goodbye to people, and then there's the next clip, which is her talking about love and Jesus. And so people have got a choice whether they listen to that or not. So if you really don't believe in Jesus, you've got a choice not to watch that. Well, yesterday I'd watched it on Sunday, and then yesterday I went back to listen to a bit of it again, because it made so much sense to something that's going on in my life again, and I was going to tell my friend about it. And while I was watching it, I noticed all these videos coming on the right hand side on YouTube, all the backlash of people's views on Doreen Virtue talking about Jesus. So that's no surprise really, because this is, and I said, has happened through thousands of years, that people who admire, love Jesus, look up to him, are criticised. What I don't like is what's happened is that people are linking Doreen's love of Jesus to a religion, and to me, Jesus is not of one religion. He's not of a religion. You know, since I've been very small, I've been aware of Jesus. I remember seeing a programme when I was probably at junior school about the shroud that was found, and I had an inner knowing while I was looking at the telly, not necessarily that that was real, but that Jesus is real, and I've always felt that all my life. My feelings about God have changed in between. I've thought, is there a God, is there not God? But now I know there's a God. I do believe there's a one being up there, or somewhere up there, not that's in control, but that's the one at the top. And I also believe that people who fear and do this immediate backlash when someone speaks about Jesus actually have some fear linked to him. And is it that they are actually doing something wrong? They might not, the human self might not know they're doing something wrong, but their soul knows they're doing something wrong. So when they hear the name Jesus, it's an instant fear, because is it a knowingness that they may be told off one day for what they've been doing, what they've been believing in? And I have learnt so much over the last few years that a lot of gods that people have believed in or believe in now are false prophets, and they are also more than likely linked to Satan, who's trying to fool people. So Doreen, I feel, is a beautiful person, and she's doing so much now to help animals. She rescues an abundant number of animals who would be slaughtered or killed in another way, you know, by owners, not farmers. And she's doing a wonderful job for Mother Nature, you know, wildlife, nature. She's a beautiful person. So I don't like this backlash at her, because like I said, you have the choice to watch that extended part of a video or not. And then the ones I watched yesterday are definitely associating her as going down that biblical path, and she's going to start preaching, and she's a Christian, and she's this and that, just because she's mentioned Jesus. And she's talking about, she has mentioned that when she was a child she belonged to, well, she didn't have a choice of that, her parents took her there, didn't they, to churches. She had that, but then in between she's been doing this, she's aware of gods, goddesses, angels, fairies, all different sorts of elementals and ascended masters. And someone mentioned that she's now, I haven't seen that video, that she's been talking about ascended masters, and she's not so sure that some of those are, I don't know what she said, real, or she doesn't trust them. And that may be because she's picking up that they could be these false prophets disguised as good And you can watch lots of videos on YouTube of people all around the world that think this. There are these false gods that are teaching people that that's the way, and they're actually not the right way. And these aren't people who are church worshippers. I, as a medium, have been very aware that Christian churches especially, and church halls, do not like psychics going there, because I've asked them about hiring the halls for events, and they make it quite obvious that they do not like psychics. I donated some money to a Christian hospice from my readings, and they sent it back. They said they couldn't take the money from a psychic. And I thought, well, that's very unholy and unspiritual, isn't it? Because I, as a psychic medium, have always had this belief in Jesus, and I also know there are goddesses, I know there are guides, I know there are teachers, I know that spirit family and friends are in spirit. The world out there is so much bigger than what we see, and the one way you can start to see that is by stop watching telly, and especially the news. I was at an event on Saturday, and a lady said to me, but how do you know what's going on in the world? I said, there's a much bigger world out there than what you're seeing on your TV. I said, and especially on that news you're watching. So that was a question to me, how on earth do you know what's going on in the world? I said, I have an inner knowing of what is going on in the world. I said, but you are being brainwashed by the TV. You know, I know that. But what I found very interesting on Sunday, I watched a video by, it was a show on in London, I believe, of Erich von Däniken. And when I was a child, my junior school, my dad bought Chariots of the Gods, and I read that, and my eyes were opened wide, but I also wasn't that surprised, see, because I was already knowing these things, knowing of things. And when I was, I believe it was the first year of senior school, we had to do a talk, and I went home and I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I couldn't see that anything was so interesting that I had to talk about. And then my dad said, why don't you talk about this book you read? So I did. I went and stood up in front of the class, which I didn't like doing, and did this talk about aliens and pyramids, and you know, there's other beings in the universe, and they all sat looking at me, even the teacher, like I was mad. So that started off my first part of my journey of life, knowing that people do think you're bonkers. But isn't that because they fear it? They don't want to think about it because it scares them, because basically through a lot of my childhood it was put out through films and the media that aliens were bad, that any alien was bad. Well, I've always thought this for a long time, that if they were meant to hurt us, they would, wouldn't they? They could have destroyed us. In the past, the Romans, I believe, came from another planet, and they weren't nice people, were they? Neither were the people who controlled Egypt. They weren't nice people either. But when I listened to this talk of Erich von Däniken, he said something that really made me very happy, because he believes in all these other things, these aliens. He was talking about the Book of Enoch, it's part of the Bible. Now in that book, Enoch is saying about these beings coming down from above in some sort of, he doesn't say spaceship, because at the time that was written, no one had that word, did they, for spaceship or space. They didn't have words for what he saw, but it's actually in the Bible, and what it means is these aliens came down in a spaceship and talked to him, and he eventually went to live with them. But Erich von Däniken, who knows all of this, all that's happened before, and so, well, I'm going to start to buy his books, as my brother mentioned at the weekend, and he said he believes in his God. So this man knows there's all these planets, all these other beings out there, and he still believes in God. And he is of a Christian or Catholic faith, and if he believes in God, he believes in Jesus. So this is that man that's got all that knowledge that so many people look up to around the world, and are probably quite surprised that he believes in God when so many people don't, because they believe there's all these aliens and no one was God. So the attack against Doreen is not surprising, and she will know that herself. She won't be surprised, because she knows that people are attacked if they believe in Jesus, and immediately it's turned into you are a Bible basher, you go to church and you're preaching, and she is not. So I don't like what's happening. I don't like what's being said about her. I do have an opinion though of people that do become very successful, and of course she has escalated successfully, and I'm not picking on her, I'm saying this about most people that are successful, I believe, belong to a certain club, which some people call the Freemasons, some people call the Illuminati, because does anyone have a lucky break, or do these people who seem to have lucky breaks belong to that club? But if she is in that, like other spiritual people are who are very successful, she is obviously not like others, because she is so kind because of her belief in helping these animals. So she is a good soul. She is a good soul. And this fear that's associated with psychics and Christians, the Christians' fear in psychics, my feeling on that is because they know that the psychic can see through them, and they know that the psychic can see other things and can see that the way they're teaching, that there's only Jesus. I believe Jesus is very important, and I believe he came as an energy of love. People I know in my spiritual circle have told me Jesus is not real, and I've not argued about that, because that's their opinion, isn't it? But that's not mine. And I don't like them telling me, you know, that what I've seen in meditations, because I do see him and I do speak to him, that I'm wrong. Because it's very rude actually to tell me what I've seen in the meditation, who I've spoke to is wrong. But I have also spoken to aliens, or what people call aliens, greys, in meditations, and you know, whatever else there is, and I know there's multiple other types of beings and creatures, that Jesus is an energy of love. And the people that have criticised me for believing in him and seeing him and talking to him, they understand there's an energy of love, and they believe in shapeshifters, and they believe in this and they believe in that. So I would explain it to them as that God is an energy. God and Jesus are energies. So Jesus arrived, the energy that we knew to become Jesus, and he may have been like a pink blob, mightn't he? A wobbly light. But people wouldn't have understood that and would have feared that. So he created this form of Jesus, the body of Jesus, didn't he? That people would understand. And that's what he is to me. He's a being from another place, a higher place, with energies of love. Because essentially what Jesus wants for you is you to have a shelter, food, water, and good health care. And that doesn't mean tablets from a doctor. That doesn't mean that at all. That means natural health care, the best health care for you. So I am not anti-Jesus, I am not anti-Doreen Virtue, and I do not like people attacking her because she has admitted, and why shouldn't she, that she believes in Jesus. But also, the man that so many people look up to, Eric von Daniken, also believes in God. And if you believe in God, you believe in Jesus. And as a psychic reader, I've done many readings for people of all different faiths, all different nationalities, and I like to often at the end, when I'm talking to someone who's Hindu or Sikh or Muslim, ask them at the end their beliefs. And I've been told by so many people of different religions that they believe in Jesus, which has nicely surprised me, because they believe in their God, their say Messiah or Allah or Buddha, but they also believe in Jesus. So that has very nicely surprised me when I've heard that they aren't dismissing, so they're not dismissive of someone else, because like I said, Jesus is not linked just to the Catholic Church or to the Christian Church. Jesus is not of a religion. So no one should link Doreen to being she must be a Christian. She may well be a Christian, but that doesn't stop her believing in fairies. In one of the most recent videos, it might be the one that was for this week, she mentions fairy elementals, and people are acting as if now because she believes in Jesus. She hasn't suddenly believed in Jesus, she's believed in Jesus all her life, but she was probably told by her publishers not to talk about it because they know how people create this backlash. One set of cards I have got in the last few months is Loving Words with Jesus, and I knew I had to have these cards, and I know something's right, like many people do, when you go very cold suddenly, or you get emotional. And these cards are absolutely beautiful, and they've been painted by a man called Greg Olson, and these pictures are stunning. I love them, you know, like this one. See, they're not terrible messages, they're not scary. It says, they're actually written how it was in the Bible. It says, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So these people who are attacking Doreen and all those others who believe in Jesus should not fear him. Should not fear, because he is not. There are other people that can come disguised as Jesus, but I feel most people, those who truly believe in him, would know which one who he is. If he appeared in front of them, they would know if they're being conned. And another view of mine about these people that do seek these other paths, that they criticise other people's, is they are really not open spiritually. I like to hear everyone's views, and I'm very open, and I'm not of a rigid path. I don't like straight paths, I like wonky paths, and I say to people, you can jump off your path at any time and you can come back onto it if you want. But I do not criticise other people's religions if that's what they want to believe. But what is very evident is that people all over the world, of all different nationalities, from all different countries, are aware that there is something coming. So they are waiting for their God, who they believed in thousands of years ago, to come back. And I do believe this is going to happen. So some people are waiting for Jesus, some people are waiting for Messiah, some people are waiting for Buddha. All sorts of people are waiting for somebody. So a lot of people have this knowing that something's coming, and I know change is coming, and a better change. And how I see it is that somebody, whoever that is going to come from above and remove these dictators, these nasty dictators from this world. I do believe that 100% that is going to happen, and it's not going to happen too far into the future, probably 2020 something. That's what I've felt, that's what I've seen other people, astrologers saying, and that's what I believe is happening. So it's very exciting, and it's very, very lovely, and I know we're being helped, and that people, when people see these spaceships, they are monitoring what is happening on Earth, not what we, me and you, are doing, but what these leaders are doing, the naughty things they're getting up to harm us, because everybody in the world is connected. So we on here are connected to people on other planets, because people believe that we came from others in the universe, didn't we? So we are connected to them by our DNA, by something to them. So if we are being hurt, they feel that too. So that's what I wanted to talk about, but it was particularly about Doreen, and so I thought I would tell everyone else how I feel. I felt very excited when I heard Eric Von Däniken saying about he has never lost his faith in God, in his God, is what he said, his God. So I found that very interesting. And whenever I think about things like that there is Jesus and there is a God and there's these higher beings that are of energies of light, but they will tell you off if you've been doing something wrong, so they're not going to be all smiley for you all. I think it's lovely that there is something else, because we've all been brainwashed by TV, you see, believing that what we see out of that TV is all there is, and that is such a big lie, such a big lie. If you start to turn your TV off and open your eyes and start to meditate, you may well see people, other beings in your meditations, and people who wrote fairy stories with giants in and little people, they were leaving the clues for the future generations to tell you that these beings have lived here or are living here. They've left clues in these storybooks, and people just think they're fairy tales, fantasy. They're not. They've left the clues for us. So there's a very wonderful, exciting, lovely, loving world out there. There will always be elements of bad, because there is, but there's a lot of bad people on this planet, isn't there? But that's what I see is happening, and the coming, that I believe is coming in 2020 something, and there's only 10 years in that, so it's not long. It is going to be something that's good. It's not going to be good for everybody, because a lot of people have been very bad, haven't they? But the day will come. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but the people, if you live with love in your heart, if you respect yourself, if you respect other people, you're kind, you're compassionate, you're thoughtful, you aren't doing too much wrong, are you? Well, thank you all for listening. Goodbye.